Vijay Prakash ji and Professor Gangadhar ji. Professor Gangadhar ji is a Vice Chancellor in Mysore, Rajgopal University, and he is basically from anthropology. And Shri Vijay Prakash ji is the chairman of Bihar Vidyapeeth, which was established by Gandhi ji. And Dr. A.K.Pandey is a well-known person who is a patron of Society for Empowerment, and now he is also an expert on Gandhiji. So, ecology and environment and Gandhiji is a subject which is being discussed these days due to climate change. But Gandhiji was very realistic. He realized in the beginning of his movements that unless you talk of this environment and ecology in which people are living, you cannot think of uh, any movement. So he made the people aware of it. And that's why he asked to go for Chakha, so that there will not be any pollution. And he also suggested that nature has given you us sufficient for our need, but not for greed. So if we exploit more, then there will be imbalance between nature and the world. But the people, they didn't realize whatsoever Gandhiji has said, and they went for exploiting all natural resources uh, more than its capacity. And today we find that the climate change is the product of that. And in climate change, now we are not sure that the rainy season has gone, but now you have rain. And the result is that farmers are unable to cultivate their land. Similarly, we found that in July this year, we had the maximum temperature of heat, whereas in July we used to have rain. So this concerned us that how the people be reminded of that we should adopt the Gandhian philosophy, Gandhian teaching, and even it's not that too late. Even if we adopt it and practice it, then probably we may be able to do some good for bringing some positive change in climate. But that is not the scientists and the experts of climate. They have they, they have different opinion. So I thought that let us start a discussion on this, and we should continue it for some time. If it makes any positive sense to the people, then we can take it up further. So that is the purpose of organizing it, and I am thankful to Vijay Prakash ji that he is very busy today, but he could make it and he could find time to come and share his views on this subject. So the first of all, I will request Sri Vijay Prakash ji to throw some light on this theme. Sri Vijay Prakash ji.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Professor Narayan. Thank you for organizing this dialogue here, and that too at a time when India has reached moon. Chandrayaan 3 has landed there, and now people have started dreaming about having colony on moon and other planets. So on one hand, we are marching ahead. On the other hand, as you rightly described, we are facing a serious problem of climate change, and climate change has come in a big way. We have serious issues of air pollution, and most of the time, if you are in Delhi, it will be difficult to breathe during winter. You have water pollution of the same order. You have soil erosion issues, and obviously, I mean, it's not only the whole water cycle has gone array. You will find that when we were young, we used to have a long spell of rains. Now there is no long spell of rains. Rains are sporadic. Rains have also localized, and we also have a serious issue of what do you call? Suddenly the what they call is cloud bursting. You have many cloud bursting these days. We never heard of such cloud bursting earlier. So I mean, it's not only global warming; it's local issues, local change in the climate that is also has become a matter of serious concern. Anyway, this is on one side, but we have to probably see how we can how Gandhian principles can help us, or whether we should follow Gandhian principle. And at times people think that both scientific development and technological development are not in consonance with Gandhian views. So I would like to probably throw some light on this and see what we can learn from these people. What Gandhiji said and what Narayan Sahab rightly said, that his one maxim that nature has enough to meet our needs, but it cannot meet our greed. If you see, the whole issue of climate change is basically last 400-500 years problem. What was happening earlier? Before this industrial evolution, if you see, before industrial evolution, you had cottage industries. Your production was totally decentralized. At that time, India was leading in the manufacturing sector, roughly manufacturing to the tune of 30 to 40% of the world GDP. And at that point of time, there was no issue. But once we had this industrial evolution, once we had centralized production system came in, then the system has suddenly become critical, because we have started exploiting nature to the maximum. So one of some principles which Gandhiji used to say, I suppose that can still be used as a guidepost. One, as said, we have to minimize needs. If you minimize needs, obviously this will require, what has happened is during the industrial evolution and after industrial evolution, we have become the whole system has become more consumeristic. People needs, I mean, earlier we used to have, even there was one mobile in the house, or even in the colony, it used to be sufficient. Even when we were young, we used to have only one or two shirts and one or two pants, and we passed on for years. But now, even people have 30 or 40 pants, and then they consider that they don't have enough it. So what has happened is our this not it's, I don't call it need. We have just started hoarding things, and this is changing the whole pattern of manufacturing. So we are manufacturing more than what we need. So this need, what Gandhiji used to say, that needs to be minimized at any cost. I mean, this. I will just tell you another important thing in this context. If you see Eastern philosophy, and if you compare it with the Western philosophy, one thing is very clear. In Indian philosophy, whoever was learned, they used to move away from cities. They used to minimize their needs. And if you see any person, Chanakya moved away from, he didn't live in the capitals. Or anybody, any guru, they will move towards forest. They will move to the villages. So whoever was learned, they moved to the villages. The whole leadership was in the villages. But on the other hand, if you see the Western philosophy, whoever was learned, they came to cities. They wanted to earn more. They wanted to use and consume more, use natural resources more. They wanted to consume more. They live in bigger houses. I mean, this is the same pattern we have adopted, and it's one of the main concerns that the leaders of the society, they have adopted a lifestyle which is more consumeristic, which requires more consumption of power, more consumption of water, more consumption of anything, iron, or more consumption of all kinds of natural resources, or even petrol. And we have reached to the brink of consuming the entire minerals of the earth. So this is one point I would like to bring to your notice, that we have to have a movement based on what Gandhiji used to do. When Gandhiji came to Champaran, you see, after Champaran, he started wearing only dhoti and the things, because he thought that we don't have enough clothes to meet the needs of our people, and that's why he started Khadi movement. And so one of the issues that will probably be of concern is, if we want to have sustainable development, we must have control on our meeting of our needs. So we have to reduce needs, and for reduction of needs, obviously the leaders will have to take charge. They will have to show the way, as was the Indian philosophy, or even Gandhiji showed the way. This is one. Another area that I would like to point out here itself, that is, need is also related to your simplicity. So simple life, consuming simple food. We used to have food in a very, if I remember, we never used to have food outside. We used to cook food. My mothers used to cook food, or food was cooked in the house, and we used to consume that only. We never dreamt of having food outside. This was never considered a good thing, good practice to go outside and have food. There was not enough hotels also. But what has happened now? It has just reversed. And this is not only causing a strain to the ecology and environment, it's also causing damage to our health. And now we say that don't consume. I mean, we often have propagation that we should not consume all the junk food. So on one hand, we promote junk food. On the other hand, we go. We are in fact, we had promoted junk food at one time, and now we are saying that we should not have samosa, or we should not have junk food. So this this is a serious concern, that what Gandhi used to say, that we should have, number one, simple life. And another thing which is related to this is the production locally, local production, and which Gandhiji used to advocate, that needs to be emphasized once again. If I will just enumerate in a different manner, what happens is, if it is produced locally and consumed locally, you will require less power, less not only less power, you will also require less loss, and you will invest less on packaging. Packaging is one of the most damaging thing in the world. Packaging materials, if you see plastics, I mean, if I just enumerate, when we had joined services in roughly 80s, this plastic has come, and we used to promote that we should have not carry bags should be of plastic. It was very useful. So we should have carry bags from plastics. So at that point of time, we promoted plastic bags. And by the time, I mean, even before we retired from service, we had started saying, say no to plastics. So for 30 years, this technology has not remained. No technology, if you say, let me tell you, no technology has survived for long, except the technology which Gandhiji used to advocate, that we should promote villages, we should promote local production, we should consume locally. So production locally, consumption locally, that needs to be promoted once again. That is one of the major things that we have to see. Another area that I would like to point out is this is basically from our scriptures, and which Gandhiji used to say quite often. That is, I would like to tell you about whether we should have a human-centric approach, I mean, human controlling the whole universe, or we should have human being as a part of nature. If you just let me tell you, enumerate. What we used to say, we are part of nature. We are not separate from Jio or Jine Do. Yeah, let's all live together. We have Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Everybody is part of a family. Family, even animals or birds or whatever it is, trees, they are also part of the family. So we had a philosophy of everybody becoming one, and that's why even if we start considering, if the man starts considering that he is different, he has to control, things become totally different. Then this kind of imbalance will definitely come. There is Pandeyji is also from physics, and I'm also from physics. We used to learn about a philosophy called Mach's philosophy, Ernst Mach philosophy. Ernst Mach was a great philosopher. He had given a very interesting principle. His Mach's principle says that the inertial properties of matter is critically dependent on the mass energy distribution throughout the universe. That means that if you are doing something, it critically depends on what is happening throughout the universe. You are not alone. The entire universe guides you what to do, what not to do. If we think that we can probably change the environment, if we can think that we can change the universe, we are totally mistaken. We are not alone. And this we have to understand very clearly. We are part of nature. We have to live as if we are a part. We are not here to boss over the nature. This is wherever we have broken this maxim, we have fallen into trouble. We have, if you see the case of Bihar, I would like to tell you, we went for this embankment across the river Kosi. And now what has happened is, because due to siltation, water has gone up so much that we always have a threat of severe catastrophe anytime. And we have every 20 years roughly, we have a serious catastrophe. because the silt has gone up and the water level outside and the level outside has become so high that it may break any moment and it can create a serious flood issue. So anyway, this is what has happened. Wherever we have tinkered with the nature without considering that we are part of the whole thing, then it becomes quite difficult, and we have to probably understand and things like that. I would like to add one thing, because then we'll probably go for the dialogue as well. I'm associated with a school called School of Creative Learning, and there we have started a very important thing, simple thing, that is called Adrishti Yoga. What is this Adrishti Yoga? Adrishti Yoga is basically, here we put a child, we make a child feel like a tree or feel like a bird, and then see the universe. If you feel like a bird and see how the universe behaves with you, or if you feel like a tree and see how people behave with you, then you start having a empathic relationship with the trees or birds and animals. And once you start doing this, then your behavior changes. Your behavior with these elements of nature change. So, and we have found that this is called, what we call it, this is called, we call it Adrishti Yoga. And then when we ask, after the performance of this yoga, when we ask them to write their views or write their views in the form of a story or essay or a poem, then you can definitely see the imprint on their changing mind. So one of the major problems that we have to develop in the world today, if you want to have sustainable development, that is, we should have this a movement for developing empathy, and particularly empathic attitude for the nature. If we can probably do it, that will be a great service to the humanity. Then we will feel, if you, I mean, what you see, I mean, let me elaborate it further. We never feel any compunction in cutting trees or using trees for our purpose. We have one sofa, now we have 10 sofas in the house. Even then we are not satisfied. We are not satisfied with 100 chairs. So we are even all the walls, even after the walls, we have wooden almirah and all throughout the wall. So we have layers after layers. We are using wood, and we don't have any compunction. But if you start having an empathic relation with the trees, probably your behavior might change. I mean, this is what I feel. And in this context, I would like to just elaborate a very important thing, which I have derived from Gandhiji's philosophy. That is, we have to develop emotional relationship with the people, with the nature. It's not rational. This rational versus emotional concern is a very serious issue. If you see, in the books, you teach that trees should not be cut. But even the books that is created, that is also made from the trees itself, by cutting the trees. So if we go for, suppose, if we then what is the remedy? In our Indian system, we had a different thing altogether. We developed a relationship with everything in nature. On different occasions, we put vermilion on, say, peepal tree or bird tree or banyan tree, and you will find that nobody will be able to cut a banyan tree or peepal tree. They have survived because we developed a relationship with them. So if we can probably develop a relationship, why? We develop a relationship with the cows, we develop a relationship with rivers, we develop a relationship with all the astronomical objects. Chanda hamare mama ho gaye, Ganga hamari mata ho gayi. This kind of Prithvi is again mother Earth is mother. So what we are doing is we have developed a relationship, emotional developing emotional relations and following the Indian scriptures. What even Gandhi ji practiced the same thing. This emotional emphasis on emotional things, developing emotional relation, will be of great value if we want to sustain it. And the last point just now is, when I was in government, there was a move. And the move was that we should have a green budget. Gandhiji never talked about green thing, because at that time it was not that important. But now people are talking about the green budget. What is green budget? Means whenever you pass a scheme, Gandhi used to say that whenever you pass a scheme or take a decision, you think of the poorest of the poor. Now we say that when you pass a scheme, you have to take a decision, you must think of the damage that you are going to cause the nature, and how you are going to recycle it, how you are going to compensate it. That compensation must be built into the scheme, and that is called green budget, green budgeting. Green budgeting was thought of, but is yet to take off. In fact, it is the time that we should start thinking of having green budget. We should think of the green planning. We can call it green planning. We now have greenhouses or green colonies or zero energy colonies and things like that. But we must start thinking along those lines, and think I do see great value in Gandhiji's approach of handling human relations or handling public affairs, so that if we want to have a sustainable development, I don't think there is any other alternative but to follow Gandhiji. Thank you for the time being. If I get opportunity, I will tell something more later. Thanks.
Vijay Prakash ji, you have said very rightly that we must have some emotional connections, because there are several instances in which we find that Gandhiji created emotionally attachment with the people wheresoever he worked. That's why he got success in his it. But these days, that emotional attachment with the people or with the tree, with the nature, is absent. Our emphasis is more on technological advancement than on the advancement of the human being. So you are very rightly said that human-based considerations in policies is required. Only then we can think of sustainable development in terms of climate change. Otherwise, we will not. There will be some questions that will be um, are, are raised by the viewers after the two speakers finish their thing. So now I will request Dr. A.K.Pandey ji to present his views.
Thank you, Professor Narayan. As soon as I read the topic of today, that is environment, ecology, and Gandhi, then as a critique, the first question came to my mind that the words are new to not only me, but because the consciousness towards ecology and environment has developed somewhere after Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi. Then how to link Gandhi with those subjects which have emerged among intellectuals and scientists in recent years. I mean, after I think 80, the or at least 75, government adopted, government created a Department of Environment. And somewhere in 1973, internationally a project was being run, that is Man and Biosphere, which propagated the idea of ecosystem, its niches, and different aspects of ecology. But then what came to my mind is that whenever new subjects have been created, they have in the preface itself that these principles are being used from time ever, but not classified or replicated or taught as a separate thing. Let me explain what I mean. When we praise of Ashoka's empire, we always say that उन्होंने पेड़ लगाए, सड़कें बनवाई, सड़क के किराए सराय बनाई, जनता के लिए बहुत काम किए. उसके बाद जब when we talk of Akbar, he is also praised for the same things. पेड़ लगवाए, सड़कें बनवाई, तालाब खुदवाए, कुएं खुदवाए लोगों के लिए. And when we talk of 20-point program of Mrs. Gandhi, we again find those principles in the same way. What does it mean? It means that leaders and visionaries of time, they understand whole process of people in one go by their instinct only. Even if they are not taught formally, they converge to the bare truth and most fittest strategy for the people of those times. And that is how I think of Gandhi, because at his time, there may not be taught as a subject, but the understanding of the objectives of these principles, environment, change, and ecology, those things were in his mind, in his actions, and in his preachings, whatever he told to everybody. So, first thing, that charkha, because he understood, he could calculate that people of India, how much they are producing cotton, how much they can create their cloth. And after calculation, he said that a man can use takli and other thing, and this much he can create without help of machines and other. So I will wear only that much cloth. So not only he thought of principles, he lived those principles. He demonstrated that one can survive with those principles. Similarly, whatever was in room was a small table on which he could write and keep some documents for study. And with all this, with only that much, he could run the whole freedom movement by his actions, and few letters he used to write at those days. So that is how I could console myself about the relevance what Gandhi thought and how it fits to today's thinking and understanding of the world and the direction it is going. Whenever there are great forces, we cannot stop them. We cannot say that this is wrong and this is right, but we can steer them. So this, as my friend Vijay Prakash said, every person in the world has greed. We need things. We require these things. We require furniture, we require book, we require. But there is a way to steer those things. And that is what he explained, that the green, the green budget, these are the instruments through which we try to steer our wishes, our greeds in such a way that we know that we have to pay the price of whatever great things we want. Because the best way to implement a project like this is that if you are producing, if you are consuming that much, and if you are made to pay its total price, then you will yourself understand that how much to consume. Our whole society, somehow people consume more than they can produce, and those people are the responsible for the poverty of lot of millions. He was so straightforward, Gandhi was so straightforward in speaking that even in front of the King of England, when he asks that, Mr. Gandhi, you are not wearing words in this cold, you are not wearing cloths, proper cloths in this cold. He said that you have stolen my cloth along with cloths of all our countrymen, so that we have nothing to wear. So straightforward, so true, and so much clear about objectives. We remember these things about him. Those few words have so much force of logic and truth and practice that nobody could answer those words. And that is where I praise Mahatma Gandhi, that whatever he told others to do, he himself implemented first on him. So, so far as environment, in a limited sense, cleanliness of slums, uh, living with untouchables and teaching them how to do better, integrating them in the society overall. These are one of the aspects and its shadows of whatever overall thinking was going on in his mind. And he could lead people in that way. I don't see Gandhi March as a simple event or simple part. When you think deeper about what Gandhi used to think, in his mind, he knew that once there will be tax on this salt, the most worst affected will be poor people. Because today they are getting free salt anywhere, and tomorrow the government machinery, just like they created Bengal famine, they will create a famine of salt also all over the India. So that's why he went for Dadi March and Namak Satyagrah and could stall that at that time. So these are individual events which we try to analyze and then try to enter his mind about the understanding of ecology and environment of that time and for all times. Very truly, my friend has said that true ecology is thinking man not as a controlling authority of all over the nature, but thinking it as a part of the whole scheme of ecology, from small insects, from viruses, and to elephants, lions, and seas, and orchards and forests. It is, it is so true that though we not see it, though we rarely they explain in books of our students, books of our young children, but just imagine in the whole ecosystem of the earth, sun rays are being absorbed on one side among planktons and shells in the sea. On the other side, sun rays are absorbed in forests, trees, where they create oxygen on one side and create food for the other side for us to eat. So, for our food and oxygen, we are so much dependent. Just because it is not visible directly to our eyes, we neglect this aspect. And there comes the concept of ecology as a part. The bad thing about this knowledge is that unless the creation of oxygen comes to a level where we cannot sustain our life, till then we will not learn practically from our side, from our simple knowledge. So even at that time, I know all the action, planting, thinking in terms of what Mr. Vijay Prakash said, that we are part of environment. So we must love our nature, our trees, just like we used to love our mothers when we were 6 months or 1 month old, because we are getting life from there. So in short, I can say that again there can be so many words, so many principles, and they can be explained in many ways. But the vision of Gandhi about overall society's living, overall improvement of the country was so strong and so self sufficient in those times that Britishers knew that we cannot exploit it now. And once they felt that we cannot exploit it, they left. It was strategy, it was knowledge, and it was the understanding of the theme and machinery to rebut it. I can speak longer many facts about ecology. Today it is a full-fledged subject in universities. Environment is full-fledged department and every file has to be cleared from that department. But there was the small seed in those times which now has grown to overall understanding and harmonious living with nature today. Oh, and we have reached to the stage where perhaps we can sustain it very long for very long time, better than any other country of the world. So, thank you, Professor Narayan. You gave me opportunity to express my thoughts. It was spontaneous what came to my eye. There may be mistake in my understanding. I will apologize for that. Thank you, everybody. Jai Hind.
No, thank you very much for your presentation. You made a very good presentation. Now, our another speaker is Professor Gangadhar. He's a vice chancellor there, and he has done good work on Gandhiji. And I will request him to present his presentation. Professor Gangadharji.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Good evening to one and all. Respected Professor Nand Sir, Chairman, Society for Empowerment, Dr. A.K.Pandey ji, Shri Vijay Prakash ji, Coordinator of the programs, invitees, and participant friends. I consider it is a privilege to be a part of this program on Gandhi, environment, and ecology. I commend the Society for Empowerment for organizing this roundtable discussion. This type of program is the need of the hour. The earth has enough sources for our need, but not for our greed, where Mahatma Gandhi ji quoted this very seriously. Environmental crisis, the rapid economic growth, and deepening consumerist culture on the other hand. Hello? Hello? On the environmental crisis, sir, ma'am, audible?
Audible.
Okay. Yeah. Environmental crisis resulting from rapid economic growth and deepening consumerist culture on the one hand and rapid growth of population on the other has now put an enormous stress on the very survival and development of human being. Human being always lived in two worlds: the natural world which is given, and the social world which is given, the social world which is the creation of man through times. These two worlds are not separate from each other. They are interdependent and interactive. Gandhiji was a deep ecologist in the sense that he did not value nature because it was useful to man, but because it was the creation of God and hence must remain as it possible. Gandhiji therefore called the limitations of wants so the man's stress on nature would be the least possible. The environment concentrate like landscape, silent spring, our ecology, population explosion, damage the ecosystem, and poverty, consumerist culture, and environmental justice, universal ethical principles, the values, rights, and obligation. The Mother Earth, the terms such as this have turned into an anchor point of social critics and moral philosophers and policy experts over the past decade. So, environmental crisis, the moral philosophers and policy experts over the past few decades, and environmental crisis resulting from this economic development and attended consumerist culture. Now, this has been a very survival and development of human history. The technological power that the man has acquired to transform nature is unparalleled in the annals of human history. Man can use his power to create a heaven on the earth, but he can also use to dig his own grave. That's one. The most important fact is to know oneself is self-realization. I will need to basis or to root of human civilization. We have to rethink the ecology of exploring the totality of all interrelation between human societies with everything in its environment. The deep ecological philosophy reviews the organization and operations of the earth first. Mahatma Gandhi realized the importance of living close to earth as a part of ecosystem. The philosophy of life and his own experience on our culture and social system. Humans have always inhabited the two worlds. One is the natural world of plants, animals, soil, air, and water that preceded them by billions of years, of which they are the part. The other world is social institutions and artifacts that we create for ourselves using science, technology, and political organization. Both worlds are essential to our lives, but integrating them successfully causes enduring the tensions here. The relationship between man and nature was simple at the early stage of human civilization. The life of a gather, hunter, and agriculture society was close to Mother Nature. People had limited ability to alter their surroundings. Now we have power to extract and consume resources, produce waste, and modify our world in a way that threaten both our continued existence and that of many organisms with which we share the planet. Humans have become a dominant organism over the most of the earth, damaging or distributing more than half of the world's territorial ecosystem to some extent. By some estimates, human preempt about 40% of the net terrestrial primary productivity for use by altering the species composition or physical process. Human dominated the ecosystem. Realizing the seriousness of ecological problem, we have to rethink ecology by exploring the totality of all human machine and human animal and human plant interrelation for substantial development of the society. And we have to create alternative forms of our built environment and high technologies and economic communities by reconstituting the nature economic culture equation. This is the only possible if we sensitive enough for ongoing ecological destruction, asking question from oneself, realizing the path of our activity of material wants. Gandhiji never had an intention to evolve a philosophy of life. It emerged as he looked deeper into the root cause of the problem facing the world. There is a connection between the worldview and our attitude towards the earth. Self realization is the ultimate objective of deep ecology. In keeping with the spiritual tradition of our culture, the deep ecology norm of self realization goes beyond the Western self, which is defined as an isolated ego, starving for a narrow sense of individual salvation. The Gandhi was aim was to not only to have a political freedom, but freedom from poverty, inequality, caste, religion, and discontent and fear. Ultimately, the goal is attain of the moksha. With, a, with the attainment of moksha or self-realization, living being is intimately connected with nature. This intimacy follows the capacity of identification and practice of non-violence. To quote Gandhiji's, the rock bottom foundation of the technique for achieving the power of non-violation is belief in the essential oneness of all. Ahimsa is the process of purification leading into eradication of the instinct to injure or to kill. It means complete freedom from ill will, anger, and hate, and other overflowing love for all, considering for one and all for and offense against none. Offense against none. Our need will be satisfied if we have less and less greed. Greed can never be satisfied even if millions go without food and shelter. Gandhiji favored the Jain principle of Jain principle. We would also voluntarily limit our wants. If one is forced to limit wants, one resists and creates discontent among the masses. But if one limits when voluntarily, then happiness pervades everywhere. So ultimately, your unlimited wants affect the carrying capacity of the earth. With the introduction of the machinery, the production has increased as a faster rate, creating more and more wants, and it is becoming unending process. Men are now enslaved by temptation of money and by a luxurious and money can buy. This development model is taking them away from ethics and morality of life. There are now diseases of which people never dreamt of before. Earlier, people used to work in the open air as much as they using their own wisdom and experience to earn their livelihood. Now they are working for others under the condition set by multinational companies, threatening the genetic diversity of the world. Nature produces enough for man if everybody look enough for himself and nothing more. Then there will be no man dying of starvation and hunger. But we are thieves, keeping things from other whether we need them or not, leading to inequality in the world. We have to follow the principles of aesthesis and non-stealing other people's right of nature and resources. All living beings have an equal right to exist on this planet. The God has set a limit, but man has found away the overrides and the limit. Unless people seek meaning in the life and live beyond the narrow ends of material gains and exploitation of nature and human beings. Economic growth and new technologies will bring only more miseries. The potentials of Gandhian holistic view of the world and his principles, deep ecology, can be used as guiding principles for finding solution for a new eco-friendly world orders. With this, I would like to conclude. We have forgotten the Gandhi's principle, and because of our greediness and also the mechanism, our life has completely depending on the mechanism. So this mechanical life may give satisfaction to the self, but with harming the nature, and we cannot survive. That's why we have to follow the Gandhi's principles so that we can live comfortably as well as the nature can survive and for the next generation. I can confidently say that this type of program can inspire the younger generation who can follow the Gandhi's principle. And with this, I once again express my sincere thanks to the organizers for giving me an opportunity to express my few words in this roundtable conference. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Gangadharji. You have rightly said that we have to think in terms of either we should go for technological advancement or we should go for human being advancement. Policy should be like that. And recently, I had an opportunity to listen to some of the speakers of G20. They were also agreeing. They also said that we must think. When they went to Gandhiji and when they returned from the Ghat, Gandhiji, then they were discussing that Gandhi has done such a wonderful thing that even today he is so much relevant that we are discussing on it. So, with these words, I would like to see the viewers if there is any question. Viewers, questions from viewers. So this question is addressed to him. Whom? What is the moral lesson of environment according to Mahatma Gandhi? Anyway, uh, um, would you like to answer Vijay Prakash ji? What is the moral lesson of environment according to Mahatma Gandhi? इसका आवाज नहीं आ रहा है.
Are separate. This is the second lesson that we have. We also have to develop a relationship with natural objects, and which is in line with what is the Indian thinking, traditional thinking is. So we have to live with it. We also have we should see whether we can have this. Let me talk about another issue which comes here. Gandhiji talked about Swadeshi and how Swadeshi is linked with this sustainability. That also has to be seen. Swadeshi does not mean that everything should be produced in the nation. It should also be produced locally. Local production, local manufacturing, local consumption. This is the system of Swadeshi. गांव में हो, प्रत्येक गांव में गांव का उत्पादन हो, प्रत्येक जिले का उत्पादन हो, प्रत्येक राज्य का उत्पादन हो, and maximum thing if we can manufacture to be which is to be consumed locally, that is real Swadeshi. And there will be certain things obviously which will be done outside. But number one. Number two, Gandhiji, we should take another lesson from Gandhiji for this, that you should not do anything without doing labor. Human labor, he emphasized the importance of human labor. You should not eat bread. When we are students, we were used to, my teacher used to say that पहले करो तब खाओ और तब गाओ. So you have to do first, you have to do some labor, then only you should eat. And that's what Gandhiji emphasized so much. In fact, he said that every day you should either spin your cloth, and you should wear only those cloths which you can manufacture. You should cultivate whatever you have to eat. And if I remember in our old days, in the villages, people used to take pride in the fact that I consume only those food grains which I cultivate. This, in fact, Gandhiji in totality should be seen promoting local manufacturing, Swadeshi manufacturing, or minimizing of needs. In fact, if you want to talk about Gandhiji, you should promote local manufacturing in respect of industries also. All these big industries have become more dangerous to the whole society. And this Chat GPT, one of the issues that people are raising, Chat GPT has become order of the day now, and they say that this is going to cause severe loss to environment. So that is another concern. So if you talk about Gandhiji's concern was always about the local production, local consumption, and obviously local industries. So that is obviously, even now it is quite relevant, and we should in the terms of another thing, as I said, we ought to develop an empathetic attitude towards natural objects that will probably help us in shaping our decisions. And if we want to do it, let me again emphasize that whatever we do, whatever we decide, be in government, be individually, we must look into whether it is going to cause damage to nature or not. This concern, if we have developed, then obviously there will be no issue. They say that markets do not place an appropriate price or value of the environmental goods and ecosystem services as they are supplied freely at a zero price. How to change the mindset? Yes, this is a serious concern. How to change the mindset? That's why I say that you'll have to go probably for Adrishti Yoga. Adrishti Yoga and this whole sense of capitalism. I mean, say, let me explain this. What you are saying. I mean, this is a question of what you value. We value money. That's why they put price. They enhance price. In fact, if you see, if productivity is increased by having better use of machines, this productivity should go in providing more facilities rather than taking more money. If you can produce more, let's subsidize it. Let it be. Let's give less price. The whole issue is the whole capitalistic attitude of having more and more money is going to cause problem today or tomorrow. I mean, that is beyond certain. The profit. I mean, let me give you another very simple mathematics. If we say that we should have at least 10% or 15% growth in GDP, how can it be sustainable? Can it be sustainable? Anything that nature is producing, at the rate nature is producing, we cannot have any growth rate more than that. Otherwise, it cannot be recycled, it cannot be compensated. So for sustainability, you need a growth rate which can be compensated by the growth rate of the nature, what nature demands. 25% or 30% growth rate can never be sustainable in any system. So this growth rate business and profit making business, this also needs to be looked into. Anyway, I mean, this dialogue can go on, and I suppose this is a very serious issue, sustainability versus development, and probably Gandhiji's views. I mean, that becomes relevant. We have to follow and adopt. I mean, he never talked about that much pricing. He never talked about hoarding. And here we have started giving values to those people who have more persons. You have to be a better person rather than you have to be a rich person. This distinction we must make. We must emphasize on being something rather than acquiring something. अगर आपके पास BMW गाड़ी नहीं है तो आप अच्छे आदमी नहीं हैं, यह नहीं रहना चाहिए. आप उस तरह भी अच्छे आदमी बने रहेंगे. Let's have, I mean, this lesson we should draw from Gandhiji. Gandhiji could be Gandhiji even in his dhoti, half dhoti. उसमें भी he was Gandhiji, and he could influence the entire ages during his time, and obviously even after roughly about 100 years later also, 75 years later also, he is influencing people. So that's all for my side.
Thank you. Professor Gangadharji, you would like to say something? Trade-off between economic development and environmental conservation.
I would like to tell you, and this I had talked about. This is what is green budgeting. This is green budgeting. Whenever you decide a scheme, think of the damages, compensate for the damages, make provision for the damages. This is green budgeting.
Yes.
There is a whole document that was prepared at Government of India level, but I don't think it has yet been implemented. But some of the things have started creeping in. But we have to work on this, and this green budgeting should come. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry, I disturbed.
Trade-off between economic. Trade-off between. Oh, this question is to Mr. Gangadharji. Trade-off between economic development and environmental conservation. How to achieve it in holistic development model. Professor Gangadharji.
Yes. Sir.
Yes.
Because of this urbanization, and now we are agriculture farming has become very labor expensive, and most of the rural population are migrating towards the city, and day by day the urban development has become more, and here we are neglecting the agriculture preference, and more schemes have to be introduced so that we can see the both in a balanced way. Means we have to concentrate on the agriculture also, because it is completely neglected now. Everybody it means they are migrating to city, means they want immediate returns, and in agriculture there is no guarantee that they will get returns. In that fear, most of them they have stopped doing agriculture, and working. They want to work as a day laborer and migrating towards the city. So if more agriculture production is there, then automatically the cost can be reduced. Otherwise, it cannot be balanced. So government has to give more emphasis on for the agriculture technology, so that they can get more profit. Otherwise, many times whatever they grow, it is not sufficient, and there is no guarantee return for them.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Professor Gangadharji, and thank you to again's question. Green Panchayat are expected to play next energy. Green Panchayat are expected to play Dr. A.K.Pandey. Please, this is question for you. की आवाज नहीं आ रही है.
There.
Pandey ji, please unmute.
Okay. Yes. Perhaps panchayat level question has been raised in this question because of the slogan of locality. That means at panchayat level, we must see the pros and cons of any decision in terms of effect to the environment. So the question is how to promote green energy model leading to state of net zero energy. Personally, I feel that the large scale energy production today, except that solar energy, that the effect and resources cannot be limited to one side. Because coal, we are burning coal or diesel, and or hydraulics. So hydroelectric project at a small size, okay, at panchayat level you can run. But large power, thermoelectric power sets, they need a decision, joint decision of so many panchayats, you can say a district at a higher level. But the concurrence of panchayats who are being affected by that decision, they can be asked, and from people their agreement, that will be that will lead us to rational decisions, I think. So big thermoelectric power generation has to be centralized, though the decision has to be taken with concurrence with those who are being affected by that in terms of pollution, in terms of resources and in terms of output. So I think I have understood it that way.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other question from the viewers? Viewers? So we are very much thankful to the viewers that they watched our program very sincerely to raise questions. And so I am thankful to all the viewers who are viewing our program and raising such pertinent questions. And I hope in future also our viewers will be there viewing our program very patiently and carefully. So thank you very much, viewers. And thank you very much to Vijay Prakash ji and to Dr. A.K.Pandey and Professor Gangadhar ji for taking part in this webinar. We we have a plan to have about 10, a series of 10 webinars on Gandhi's ideology and the current development that are taking place, how much they are beneficial for the people, because in the current document for this ISRO, they have also talked about Gandhi while sending that to sun and to moon. They have also shared, and I had a discussion with them. So we will be sharing whatsoever we have presented with those who are really matter for policy making, and we'll let you know what is there. So we will have a series of things. If you want to suggest somebody else on this subject, we will talk to them and we'll request them to come on this platform. Once again, thank you very much to all the speakers and to the viewers.
Thank
We
you.
will
Thank you,
come back to
Narayan.
you